I mean, she joined forces with the children who bullied me at school. Though we were of the same age, Joanna was stronger than me and could handle bully really well. She was more towards the extrovert side and I am a nerdy introvert. Joanna was not an outright bully but definitely toxic and mean. She would pass sarcastic comments at me for my poor dressing sense and communication skills. Our parents tried to enforce a civil relationship between us, if not friendship. No matter how much they tried, we just couldn't bond. She would try to boss around and I would push back. The situation was neutralized only after I moved out, which was quite early. I moved out when I was 15. After that, we only met twice a year when I went home during breaks. She moved out when she was 20 and after that, we met only twice in the last 5 years. Similar to our nature, we chose our professions. I'm a lab technician at a research institute and she's a flight attendant. All this doesn't matter. The fact that she is gorgeous and better groomed than me is all that matters to men. Nick, 27M, and I have been seeing each other for 3 years. Last fall, Nick went down on his knees and asked me to marry him. I screamed a yes because why not? I loved him so dearly. He was the most precious thing in my life. This spring we planned our wedding. When it comes to planning an event, I am not so good at it. So when Joanna requested that she wanted to plan it for me, I couldn't be happier. I let her take the lead. I am sure something would have happened during the planning that sparked their relationship because they had not met before. 2 months ago, we had our engagement and then we announced our wedding. That was the first time Joanna had met Nick. Nick was my only proper boyfriend. Introverts and relationships are not a good combination. Nick seemed different. He was ready to invest in a meaningful long relationship. So, after dating for 3 years when he proposed, I was elated. He wanted to marry right away but I wanted a spring wedding so we delayed it this far. I didn't tell anyone about my plans until this January, when we sent out an invite for our engagement. The day after our engagement, Joanna calls me and asks if she could plan my wedding. I was shocked because we didn't have good bonding while growing up. She said she wants to make up for her behavior. I said that's okay, you don't need to do this, we're not teenagers anymore. She said she wanted to do it because she has more time than me and she can pull her contacts to get us some thrilling discounts. I agreed because I have busy schedules. It was during the wedding preps that she started hitting on Nick. This is my theory though. I noticed some changes in Nick's behavior. I confronted him and he said it was due to work, he's not getting enough sleep. He was working late. That could be a lie. Might be busy and tired effing that whore. The day before the wedding, the event manager gave us the tour trail of the wedding arrangements. Joanna was with us. The event manager was her friend. That was the only time I noticed their closeness. She was giggling and talking to him as if they had known each other for ages. I had an eerie feeling and wanted to confront them right there, but then I stopped thinking I might ruin the atmosphere. The wedding was next day and then Joanna would be out. It would be just me and Nick. So I let this slide. On the day of the wedding, I didn't see Joanna. I thought she must be busy outside taking care of the arrangements. When I was walking down the aisle, I saw her sitting in the corner. She looked sad. I didn't bother to think about her. That moment was not for me to think about her. I walked down. Nick was smiling but he didn't seem to be as happy as I expected. His hands were sweaty. I asked him what happened. He said nothing, just lil nervous. As I was standing at the altar, I could see Joanna's downhearted face. She was sobbing. I got confused because we ain't that close that she would sob at my wedding. Plus it wasn't happy tears. She looked miserable as if she hadn't slept in the night. The pastor began the process by asking if anyone had a reason to object to this wedding. To this, Joanna stood up and started crying profusely. All the eyes fell on her. I was frozen. I gestured at her what the hell she was doing. But she was not looking at me. She was glued to Nick. The pastor asked her the reason for her objection. She knelt down and joined her hands as if she was praying. She said she is madly in love with Nick and cannot see him getting married to anyone but her. I yelled at Joanna to stop. I rushed down the altar and screamed at her to stop this nonsense. Mom and Dad also stood up and tried to lift her up, but the damage was already done. This was still fine because Joanna has always been mean to me. I know she can go to any lengths to ruin my life. My world stopped when I looked back at Nick and he was also crying badly. He was sitting on the floor with his face buried in his palms. I rushed to him and asked him what's the matter. He didn't say anything. Joanna came running to him, lifted up his face from her hands, and said, "This is our last chance, Nick. You have to speak up. If not now, it's gonna be never. You'll be stuck to this woman. She's not gonna leave you easily." I pulled Joanna's arms and asked what was going on. Is it some kind of prank? Then better stop because I'm not liking it. It was evident to everyone what was happening there. People were glued to the drama. They got hot topics to gossip about for a month. He wiped her tears with his sleeves, looked at me, and said, he had fallen in love with Joanna during the wedding preps. After listening to all this, I could not stand there. My legs were shaking so badly. It was beyond humiliation. I felt I was ripped naked in front of the crowd. Our parents chipped in and took us outside. We had already given enough gossip to the people. I was crying so badly that I couldn't even walk. Dad escorted me out while Joanna's mom was holding her arms and consoling her. Why on earth does she need to be consoled? Homewrecker. Nick and Joanna confessed to sleeping a week before the wedding. They decided to consider it to be a one-time thing and move on, but they couldn't stop seeing each other. So Nick's late night work was actually his cheating trip to Joanna's place. They in fact slept on the night before the wedding. Nick said Joanna was so gorgeous he just couldn't resist. I couldn't believe I was about to marry this scumbag. Though our parents were present, no one said a word. They preferred to remain neutral and stay out of it. I was done listening to their love story. So, I ran into the changing room to grab my bag and car keys to leave the place. I went inside and saw myself in the mirror wearing my wedding dress, and I cannot help but break down. I was having a severe meltdown. Then Joanna entered the room. I screamed at her to get out. She said, "Yes, I will get out of here soon because my would-be Nick is waiting for me outside." I called her slutty bitch. She laughed at this and said, "Yeah, even Nick calls me that on bed." I wanted to smack her for the filth she was spitting. She said, "How could you imagine that Nick would marry you after seeing my curvaceous body? Have you seen yourself? You look like flat tires, spongy, and your dressing sense just sucks. I wonder how Nick